So you just got a commercial cleaning lead, but the problem is it's an hour away. What can you do should you take that building on? And if you do decide to take the building on, how can you make sure that it's profitable? It doesn't hurt your business or drain your time. Getting you the answers to each of those questions is exactly what we're gonna do in this video today. If you don't know who I am, my name is Matt. I'm a 7-figure commercial cleaning CEO. So from my experience, I've seen where we've taken on distant accounts and they have flopped and been tons of pain. They've caused all kinds of problems in our company. But I've also seen where we've taken on distant accounts that have been incredible benefits to our company. So I'm going to walk you through how I think about handling distant accounts inside of your own commercial cleaning business. So before we get into actually how to manage these accounts, let's talk about should you even take the chance on it. If you're anything like me, I'm sure you've made some decisions in your life that you regretted later, but at the time you were excited about it, you saw all these possibilities. Don't put on what I call opportunity blinders. Opportunity blinders are where you only consider the benefits of something and you feel those benefits, but you don't actually process the cost that it's going to take. So you can see this remote building, you might look it up on Google, you might see that it's a very large facility, you might even go do the walkthrough, and you might think you can make all this money with it and all this profit with it, but you forget about all the little things that are in the way. So let's talk about those. So aside from the time and fuel costs that it would take to actually get the account started, which is where most commercial cleaning owners hang out, right? They only think about, oh, I'm just going to temporarily deal with this thing, or I might have to go out there once a month or every once in a while. There are two other major factors that can make a distant account detrimental. The first one being is the morale cost. And what morale is essentially how good or bad someone feels while managing the business, being an owner, or even doing the job itself. And because distant accounts mean so much more to us as far as what they can cost us in time and expense and in fuel and in frustration, then our worry is heightened in those scenarios. So if anything seems to slightly be going wrong with that account, it's going to affect us so much more. And what ends up happening is all of that energy that you could be spending on marketing, building your local team, getting ideal clients, making sure that your clients are staying with you, that are your great clients, all those different things that you can be working on in your business, they start to dwindle because you're not putting in the energy needed to either build them, maintain them, or get them to that place where they need to be. And so this lack of energy comes out in all of us through how we talk with people, through what we do throughout the day, and that in turn affects our business and causes real losses in our companies. And so the second mistake that cleaning business owners make with these distant accounts is for some reason they overcome all of that reality and what could actually happen at those accounts. They insert hope right there to fill the gap. And they just hope and they see that it can work and they're just hopeful that when they roll this dice that it's going to land how they want it and this distant account is going to be passive income for them. Now that very well can happen and we're going to talk about what you can do to put the odds in your favor. But you've got to recognize as a commercial cleaning business owner, when you are inserting hope in place of processes, hope in place of skills, hope in place of whatever you need to be doing to make sure it goes well. Now, on the flip side of this, distant accounts can be great for two specific reasons. The first one being lower competition. Most likely, they reached out to you because there wasn't anyone local that they really trusted. We actually won a very large contract about 2 hours away from our office because we were the only company that was willing to do the work and to make it happen. And what's really nice about those scenarios is typically the client is going to be paying you a lot more money than they would if you were in a place where there's a lot of competition. And then also because there's less competition, their loyalty is going to be a lot greater to you. So before we get into how to staff and manage these accounts, here's how I think about should I or should I not take on an account that's far away. Within our company, we will take on a distant account if it is tied to a local one. We focus exclusively on marketing just in our local area. But sometimes we have an account in that local area that has buildings that are far off. They have satellite offices that might be 1 hour or 2 hours away. In those scenarios, we will implement a remote solution for them. On the other hand, we will take on an isolated, distant account if it is large enough to at least have a supervisor on site. The good news is you don't have to put a supervisor supervisor completely on overhead. That means that if your cleaning cost is $100,000 per year, you don't need to add, say, a $50,000 salary on top of that, making your total cost for that account $150,000 per year. You could make a large portion of their salary cleaning, right? They're just on site cleaning with the team, so they're producing profit along with doing some management activities along the way. Outside of those two scenarios, we typically don't take on any distant accounts. I would just evaluate the pricing of it because we are going to price a distant account a good bit more. And if it's a distant account from us, but it's in a popular city, we're probably not going to be worrying about it because they've got plenty of local vendors that they can call. Okay, so here's some staffing and management tips if you do decide to take on a distant account so that you can set it up to run without you and actually create that passive income stream from it. For smaller remote accounts, what we typically do is alternate schedule or do what's called route stacking. The alternating scheduling comes into play when you have multiple of these distant accounts, and typically the smaller ones don't need cleaned every single day. So they're going to have a gap in the schedule. They might be cleaned Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, or whatever frequency per week they want. So what we do, because we might be their only choice out there, is we actually let them know when we can come do the cleanings. And we set up the schedule to where, okay, we're going to be in this area on this day, then on this day we have these ones, and on this day we have these ones, then we'll be back at this one on this other day. What we typically don't like to do is have all of them on one day, right? We got a bunch of 2-hour drives to do on one day, then a bunch of 1-hour drives on another day. We want them spread out. Now that can depend on your team and your preferences, but you can alternate the schedules. If it makes sense to stack them, by all means, stack them. Now route stacking is a little bit different than the alternated scheduling in that we like to create more accounts around those distant ones. Because there's less competition in those areas, you can much more easily market to and win the accounts because you can use them as a reference. Say, hey, we're already cleaning your neighbor over here. We can get you a deal on cleaning. And you can make your routes even more profitable by doing what we call neighbor marketing. Now, when it does come to who is going to service these distant accounts, we do like to hire local. And I mean local in that distant market, not in your own market. This is where subcontracting can come into play, but we typically still will use W-2 employees to do this. The main difference is in how we pay. Within our large team in the main city, we pay hourly, and we have a whole support team that's in place to make sure supplies are there and that everything's washed and everyone's equipped. But in these distant markets for small buildings, we typically are going to pay what's called a piecework rate. Piecework is you get paid the same amount of money no matter how long it takes to clean. And because of that piecework model, we can also have them handle the supplies. All that we do is set the piecework rate high enough to where it's incentivizing them to actually take care of the account. For example, we have a chain of urgent cares and they have an account that's about an hour away from our office. Now, normally that would only cost us $16 to clean because we pay our team here $16 per hour. But what we do out there is we pay $30 per clean. So that team member out there totally manages that account. They handle it. They also have a day job. So this is extra income for them. And we rarely ever have to worry about messing with these distant accounts. Now that's fine and dandy because it can still go bad from there. You can incentivize them on one end and have this good setup that's going to be profitable and beneficial to them, but you also have to have some management in place. And essentially these forms of management are just making sure that they're held accountable to the work they actually need to be doing. This is why we love using janitorial software like Clean Smarts, which is the exact same software that we use. We use it in all of our local accounts and our distant accounts. So what we do with this is even though they're getting paid piecework and it doesn't matter exactly how long it takes to clean, we still have them punch in and punch out on the clock. This is so that we can actually see if they only took 15 minutes to clean the account, right? If it's an hour-long clean, they're only there for 15 minutes, that's a problem. That could indicate we might have some complaints coming. We might have some quality issues we got to deal with. And that's something we can address with that cleaner before it becomes a perpetual problem and the client leaves us. But on the opposite end, if they're taking way too long to clean, it could mean that they might turn over soon. We need to find someone new because either they're not motivated or the job's actually harder than we anticipated or than they anticipated, so we might need to adjust the pay. But it's an indicator for we need to figure out what's going on and make a decision. The second piece of management is we do want them to send in photo confirmations of what they have cleaned. Now, they don't got to send a photo of every square inch, but when they clean a bathroom, they submit a photo. Whenever they mop the floor, we need a photo of the dirty mop water. When they take out the trash, we need a photo of the dumpster that's been properly closed up. And what's great about Clean Smarts is it can go straight into that one location's feed and not blow up anyone else's phones. So it's all tied to there, and you can see the timestamp of when they did it. And then the last piece, there still needs to be some sort of communication that happens. So typically we like to have at least one phone call a week with our distant cleaners. It can be a little bit more frequent or a little bit less frequent depending on the scenario, but they need to know that they're still connected to the company. If someone feels too isolated, they don't feel monitored either. If the accountability starts dying off, they don't feel supported, they don't feel motivated, that morale starts to move down, then the account is going to suffer. Distant accounts like these can be an incredible benefit to your business, but also they can be detrimental. You got to have the judgment in place and the experience to know when it's going to benefit you or not. Now, if you want my experience to help you dodge mistakes, help you pick the right distant accounts and price them correctly, get your team in place to run it so it is passive income, check out the links down below. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Matt, your 7-figure commercial cleaning CEO, here to help you build an incredible commercial cleaning business. Stay tuned, and until next time, keep building.